Okay, I think I know why this was donated. It smells really funky. Hello! Welcome back to my channel. This week I finally get to tackle one of my absolute dream projects. This has been on my list since the movie came out in 2010, I think, and that film is Tangled! So I've always wanted to make Rapunzel's dress from that, and I decided that 2023 is the year to tackle Rapunzel. The reason I'm choosing now is because in September I'm going to Walt Disney World, yay! And I'll be there during their Halloween event, the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party. And something I have been dying to do since I learnt of its existence is take a picture in front of the Tangled toilets holding the cool glowy lantern thing whilst dressed as Rapunzel. So, right? So beginning last year I had been collecting fabrics and bits and bobs to start this costume with, but I had been struggling to find the right purple for the skirt. And the right purple is a bit of a controversial subject amongst Rapunzel cosplayers because sometimes her dress appears eggplant purple, sometimes her dress appears pink, sometimes her dress appears every shade in between. This is the colour I decided on, and I ordered this fabric off of Spoonflower, and I have been trying to find a purple for the rest of the panels and the skirts to match, and it's probably been 8 months and I have not found anything. However, yesterday I had one of the most luckiest finds I've ever had at an op shop. Ta-da! It matches the purple that I have picked for the centre panel of the skirt perfectly, and it was $20 for over 4 meters of it, which is cheap. So today I am finally going to start my Rapunzel costume. I'm going to start by making the skirt. So first things first, let's get into a mock-up. So originally I was going to make Rapunzel's skirt out of the circle skirt pattern because I thought, how fitting would it be? It's the Disney Princess circle pattern skirt. Circle skirt pattern. Look, I'm tired, okay? You're gonna have to deal with it this week. And then I took a closer look at reference images and realised that her skirt's actually made up of a lot more panels than what would be found in a typical circle skirt, and also I don't think it's as full. I think it's probably like a 3/4 or half circle skirt. So then I went and did some pattern hunting at Spotlight. This one here, this is what we're going with. We're going with View C here, and I'm just going to lengthen it so it's ankle length. So first thing I'm going to do is make a mock-up out of bed sheets, and if that goes well, I will probably end up using the bed sheets as the petticoat layer, because I'm cheap. Oh my god, so I didn't realise this when I brought it, but pockets! This pattern has pockets. I was going to add them anyway because I'm probably going to need to carry things around at the Halloween party, but that's cool! What a bonus!
The first thing I'm doing is modifying the length of the skirt pattern, and I'm doing that by measuring down my leg the length that I want it to be, and it turns out that is 34 inches. I then mark in that length at the bottom edge along all of my skirt pattern pieces, and then using a curved ruler I connect the dots.
Okay, I think I know why this was donated. It smells really funky. Hopefully it's nothing the washing machine can't get out. But oh lordy, if you could smell this right now. Whew! So all of my pieces now have any notches and markings cut into them, and because I'm so confident that this pattern is going to work, please don't make me eat those words later, I'm going to finish the edges of the seams first with my overlocker, because that makes it easier in the long run. It's totally going to work, trust me.
Once all the edges were finished, I then began sewing all of the panel pieces together.
Well, that's looking promising. So let's sew on the rest of the panels. Yeah, I'd say that's plenty wide enough. I am happy! So, let's iron these seams flat and cut out the purple. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut the center panel from the spoonflower fabric. Now this wasn't cheap, and I am terrified of messing this up, but we must move on. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut the center front panel on the fold, which the instructions doesn't call for. It cuts it as two separate panels, and that's just because on Rapunzel's dress there is no center front seam, so we're eliminating it.
After cutting out all the panel pieces, I realised that the back of the centre front panel was stark white, and that was just not going to do. So I cut out some of the purple fabric so that I could back it with.
So all of my pieces have now been cut out, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the petticoat layer, which is finish the edges before I sew them together. I don't, however, have a purple thread for my overlocker, but I do have an abundance of coloured thread here for my sewing machine. So I'm going to put my sewing machine onto one of its zigzag stitches and use that to finish the edges of my skirt panels.
Back to that centre front panel. So here I am laying the purple fabric on the back, and I am basting it together first before I finish the edges, just like the other panels. And look how much better that looks compared to a stark white background. Now that all the panel pieces are prepped and ready, it's time to start sewing the skirt together. And just like the petticoat layer before it, it's time to press all of the seams flat and open, except for the two either side of the centre front panel. So I'm pressing those to the side, and that's because I wanted to do a decorative satin top stitching on the front. Now it's time to sew the rest of the panels and the skirt together. Before sewing the front and back together, it is pocket time, so I'm inserting those into the side seams here. Then I press them toward the side, like so. And finally put the front and back panels on top of each other and sew the side seams together.
So the outer skirt's now done. Woo! I'm now going to hem the bottom edge of it, which is really boring, so I'm not going to film it. But then after that, I'm going to attach the waistband and the petticoat, and then it's going to be finished.
After doing some more satin stitching along the hem, I am now attaching this lace trim to the hem of the petticoat layer. Before attaching the waistband, I am basting the petticoat and skirt layers together. Onto the waistband. So what I'm doing here is I'm applying a stabilizer to the reverse side of the waistband, and then I'm folding over the seam allowance along one of the edges. And before the waistband gets attached to the skirt, I've got to put the zipper in first. After sewing the waistband on, I then clip the edges so that it'll make the corners easier to turn out. I then fold the waistband in half and press it to make it nice and crisp. I then hand sew the inside of the waistband, encasing all of the edges of the top of the skirt. The final thing I do is this little trick that I learnt while working in a bridal shop. So I'm making this little crochet knot chain. I'm not really sure what you call it, but I do 10 of these little loop thingies. And that gives me this little chain which I then attach to the same side on the skirt layer, and that stops the petticoat layer from shifting when you're twirling and stuff.
Skirt's finished, and I just came outside to film, the reveal footage of it, and the weather has kind of turned to poo, so you're just going to have to deal with side of the house footage rather than frolicking in the garden footage today. So there you have it, that is how I made Rapunzel's skirt from Tangled. I'm really happy with how it turned out. My only gripe with it is that I think it could have done with a little bit more fullness, so maybe a couple of extra panels, but other than that, really easy to put together, something that a beginner would have no issues with. So you may have noticed that I've left off one of the key features of the skirt, and that's the embroidery that runs down the side of the front panel and along the bottom edges of the skirt. The reason I haven't done that just yet is because I'm not actually sure how I want to tackle it. I'm considering using heat transfer vinyl on my Cricut, finding appliques or like a lace fabric that I can cut up that would mimic the look of it, embroidering it by hand, or getting my friend to machine embroider it for me. At the moment I am leaning more towards the hand embroidery side of it because that's how it looks in the film, but it's just incredibly time consuming to do it that way. But anyway, let me know what you think I should be doing down below, which one you think would look the nicest. With all that being said, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you really enjoyed yourself, and be sure to come back next week. I upload videos mostly on a Friday. They're usually crafting, sewing or fun related, and next week we will be tackling either the bodice or the undershirt of the top part of Rapunzel. I haven't decided which one I want to start with yet, but it will be one of those two. So until next week, I'll see you then. Bye!